Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token Podcast, episode 33.
Hello!
Hiya,
My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
And I'm Pawel.
Hey, you didn't say I'm neither of those this time. He's taken his lesson, he's learnt it.
No. This is deception.
It's the culmination of the narrative that's been slowly building over this podcast. That's what we've been building to over 33 episodes and countless specials and bonus episodes.
Very consciously as well. This is all pre-planned.
Dare I say that we've finally beaten Pawel into submission?
Oh.
I don't think actually that's dangerous.
No, that's for the government to do.
He's now going to try and prove me wrong, isn't he?
No, I'll take my time with that.
Well, lads, you having a good beginning of the festive period?
Fiscal year.
The beginning of the fiscal year?
Yes. I'm delighted.
That's the spirit.
This is the capitalist world that we live in. Are you enjoying the beginning of the fiscal year there,
Yes.
Euan?
I'm gearing up for a new fiscal year right now.
Nothing like a good VAT.
Yeah, with a nice latte.
I'll take that's a no then.
Oh, well, you know, it's cold, it's Scotland, it's everything you could hope for at the beginning of December in this dreary world.
So in this country, Christmas is all about weather then?
Well, this country, everything's all about the weather.
Nah.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually.
I love a good weather cliche.
You just like to stand inside your nice warm living room and just go, pretty crap out there today.
Right.
That's what my dad does.
With his slippers on.
Yeah, with his slippers
Staring
on,
out the window.
just staring.
Do you guys ever get disappointed when it's actually nice?
Well, it's kind of surprising. It's more just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
30 degrees in this country? I think not.
I have seen the sun the other day, and it was a bit of a shock. Yeah.
Right, well, this is not a weather podcast. This is a gaming podcast, so
We might do a bit of a side podcast about weather.
As yet another side podcast. Add it
What
to the
we'll
list.
do is we'll
Add it to the
record
list.
one episode and then we'll just loop it.
I'm going to go back and listen to all of the side podcasts we said we're going to start, and I'm going to make you do an
there's a lot
episode
of-
of each one.
It's a lot of work building up.
I'm sure there was like a Phil Collins one or something at one point.
I'm not sure I want to do a Phil Collins podcast.
I think you'd have a fucking field day if we did a Phil Collins podcast.
It would require me to listen to a load of Phil Collins.
But you're doing it ironically, Euan.
Oh,
and
great.
you love
That'll
that
be fun.
kind of thing.
You would spoil Phil Collins for me, though.
Cloak of irony.
Oh, well.
Right, so we're here to talk about some board games and some video games. No RPGs this week.
What? That's shocking.
Well, you didn't bring your physical PDFs with you
You
today.
didn't physically manifest
Stop-
any
Stop
PDFs.
blaming me. I'm all prepared and everything.
Listen to the previous episode if you don't know what that's all about.
Nah.
Or
Right,
any
so-
other episode in this podcast where I'm always promised there's going to be time to talk about RPGs. Like a year ago, these guys say, hey, let's just join us, talk about some
Okay,
RPGs.
alright, fine, let's have some RPG chat. Euan, you looking forward to playing our next Pathfinder
I
session?
really am, yeah. I think it should be fun. I'm hoping that Bobby Treetops gets to actually use his stealth abilities.
Oh, yeah. Right, thanks, that was our RPG chat, so let's
That was
move on.
massive.
We took on something pretty hefty a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
Well, we've been doing our epic gaming series.
It
we are.
was quite RPG related as well.
That reminds me, I need to get the next one set up. But we'll get to that. So,
Alright.
we took on the World of Warcraft board game. Now, there's been a few World of Warcraft tabletop games. There's been at least like 3 or 4, as far as I can remember.
Alright.
There was one that was released that was called the Adventure Game, but that wasn't what we played. I don't know what that's like actually. It just seemed to disappear off the map pretty quickly, so I don't think it really...
Probably wasn't much call.
Not much groundbreaking stuff in that by the looks of it, but we're talking about the massive game which came out in I think 2005 by Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
That's
So
older than I thought.
it's pretty old.
It's really good for something that's this old.
It goes
Yeah.
back to...
And it goes back to the original World of Warcraft. Now I did pick up 2 expansions for it. there was a third expansion made, and they printed like a few copies of it, I think, and then it just never saw the light of day. But you can definitely, there's pictures of the box and stuff like that online, but you just can't get it.
I love this idea, like this, like
the hidden
forgotten
expansion.
films, like,
Yeah. So we played it with the two expansions that actually came out.
Okay.
So we've got the World of Warcraft. If you know what the World of Warcraft game is, you'll know it's an MMO that you play.
If you don't know what World of Warcraft is, then we're surprised you're listening to this podcast.
Well, some people just listen for the board games, and
No.
So
Or,
isn't it?
or slime ranching.
And slime
That's all
ranching,
they're
yeah.
interested
I
in.
mean, that's an interesting subject. Go on for days about that. So this is the MMO. And like we say, this is the base MMO before any expansions for the actual video game came out. That's what this base board game is. But the two expansions add in the Burning Crusade and the Shadows of War things to it. So that adds in a whole lot more to the game. Pavel, you're looking confused.
Shadows of War?
I think
Which one is that?
I think that's what it was called, the expansion for it.
I wasn't aware that we played two.
There was two expansions, but one of them didn't really add too much. It added a lot more like loot and stuff and some extra little bits and pieces. But there was the big expansion for it, which
The Burning
I'm now
Crusade.
trying to find the name of because Pavel's put the doubt in my head. So yes, it's called Shadow of War, this expansion. Alright, now that I think Shadow of War was the mini expansion that added in some new cards and stuff like that. And the Burning Crusade added in all the extra stuff. The Burning Crusade was the one that added in all the dungeons. It added in loads of new monsters, epic level loot, and all that kind of thing.
And, well, that was the one. I think that was the one that added all that stuff into the actual computer game of it.
I think so, yeah. So
Burning
that was.
Crusade,
I think was that the
big
first official
sort of
expansion for?
adding in a couple of races and
Yeah,
and that, flying mounts and the extra area that you could go to and all that sort of stuff.
That's right, yeah, because
Outlets,
it does add the new races in the form of in the original board game. Without the expansions, if you wanted to be a shaman, you could only go on the Horde side, and if you wanted to be a paladin, you could only go on the Alliance side.
Right.
But the Burning Crusade expansion, just like in the video game, adds in the Blood Elf paladin and the
Draenei Shaman.
and Draenei Shaman. Yeah, so there you go. Now, this game is, how long did it take us to play? 12 hours? It was a long time.
Took us long. Did that take us longer than Twilight Imperium?
I think it did,
Yeah,
actually.
it did.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is that, see, in Twilight Imperium, you feel like you're kind of involved in everything that's going on. But like in the World of Warcraft board game, and I don't want to try and put too much of a downer on it right at the beginning of this review,
Aye.
but there's a lot of downtime. And
No,
there's
I
a
had
lot-
this similar feeling about it. That if you're comparing sort of epic games like that,
Yeah.
like Twilight Imperium somehow always keeps you engaged.
Yeah.
And this just doesn't.
Yeah, this just doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna cut him here, and I'm just gonna say that when there wouldn't be downtime if people actually spent some time looking at their cards and planning their builds instead of doing it when it was their turn.
and who was
This is a
guilty of that?
complaint, by the way.
Because
I'm looking at you.
my experience of that was that it was your team that was taking way too long.
Oh, this episode's getting good.
Well, yes.
So let's just paint the picture here. So me and you, Euan, were on the Horde side,
Yep.
along with John,
Yep.
your friend John, and we had Pawel and our friends Craig and Dave
Yep.
on the Alliance side.
For the Alliance!
That's not the Alliance slogan.
Okay, for the spirits! I was playing a shaman.
You were playing the shaman, quite well. has to
Shay
be
woman,
said.
even. Yes, and it was much truer to what the MMORPG actually is than I expected. I was pleasantly, not even surprised, just
Yes.
I found it quite fulfilling.
Now this game, like you say, is pretty true to the MMO video game because you've got a big map and it's only the one continent, isn't it? It's the
Yeah, it's one of the two,
yeah, one of the two continents. I can't remember which one it is. It's the one that has the Undercity and everything in it. Now the expansion we've got adds in Outland as well, so you've got a whole another board. We had to set up 2 full tables to take all
the
the stuff.
amount of
There is so much stuff, and the board is huge.
Yeah.
And then when you add on another board to that, you've just we had a whole table that had just the board on it basically, and some cards.
And no room for any of our game boards, which required us to be on a different table. For
Yeah.
that.
So we basically had this really long table set up. It takes about 5 minutes to walk around it to go make a cup of tea.
Yeah, that was getting a wee bit tiresome.
When you say tiresome, I say epic. this is what board games should be about. It's satisfying, you know. You immerse yourself in a board game to the point where there is no space for anything else in your living room.
Well, that was fine. Okay, so we dealt with that. Yeah, we dealt with that. It wasn't too much of an issue. But you've got the map, and then you've got quests that you can do. So each side has got their own quests. You've got Horde quests, you've got Alliance quests. You draw some cards, they tell you what monsters to put on the board and in what areas they're in. And then you can go and kill those monsters, and you can claim the quest rewards. And the quest rewards will give you money, they'll give you experience, they'll give you maybe some items. And you level up. You go, just like in the MMO, you'll go up through some levels, and as you level up you can get new skills, you can get new talents, you might be able to use some items that you weren't able to use before because they have level specific requirements on them. So you're just kind of growing your character, and you're going through, and then the whole purpose in the base game is to kill one of the overlords. It's the same in the when you add the expansion in, but it adds a bit more flavour to it. It feels like less of a race. Mainly because in just the base game there's a 30 turn limit, which wasn't enough. Like, if you ask me, I've played just the base game a few times, and it's not enough to actually get to that level where you're actually ready to fight the boss.
Well, the fact that you actually the turn counter moves on once for each.
Yeah.
So essentially,
each side
team's
gets
getting
15 turns.
Yeah,
and that's not enough.
No.
What was
We
our
played a hell of a lot more than that, I think.
I think we ended up playing about 45, 46. It was something. We'd gone round the thing once, and it was about halfway around again before the game actually finished. And by that point, like, 2 people had gone home.
We were having to just
they
like
had to go home for their
through
tea,
it.
and we just ended up just slogging through it and controlling their characters. But that was fine. But the game takes a long time.
Yeah.
But it's really so true to the MMO in terms of, like, when you level up, you get your talents in, and you're learning all these skills, and the skills feel like the skills in the game, even though
named like the games in the game. I mean, the skills in the game, they usually have even similar artwork on them.
Yeah,
but
that's identical as far as I can tell.
Often, yeah, but tactically they have the same function. Even balancing on these characters is really well done.
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
And it almost gives you a certain amount of freedom with that to work out what that should be for each character, and you kind of, I mean, I guess if you're familiar with the video game, you're going to probably have some idea of where you're going to go with that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, in the actual video game, you can spec at least in 3 different ways, regardless of your class. So obviously, a board game won't give you that ability. But I think the classes that I saw could easily spec in at least 2 different ways, 2 different directions.
Yeah.
And again, you don't. I never expected to be so in depth. Now, I always have a very specific shaman build whenever I play World of Warcraft, and my particular build wasn't in the game. But regardless, I know shaman strengths well enough to know why I play shaman and what I can do with it, and I actually saw it in the game, and I saw it unveil in front of me as I kept leveling up. What sort of what sort of loot I could equip, what sort of talents I could go for and enhance my whatever skills with. It was true experience. That's what you have in the video game. It's just when you're playing video game, you spend 8 months to do it, which pretty much just felt like it when we played it, because it was a long game.
Oh yeah, it's a long slog. I mean, because a lot of this game is just grinding. It is just going about doing the quests, getting the stuff, getting the experience, so that you can build up towards going after that overlord and killing him. Or getting into the dungeons. You know, you want to get yourself set up for those, get some epic loot so that you can then go and move on to the next stage, sort of thing. But the whole game is just a grind. But the good thing, and you've already talked about it, Pawel, for me, is the character specking and stuff like that. Like the way that you can really customize your character in this game is what the game's all about for me. Because I mean, I played as a druid. Now, I've never played as a druid before in this board game. I'm not going to do it again. That's my least favourite class so far.
Alright.
It has to be said. Mainly because you felt so limited in what you were doing. Because I started to spec towards using my beast forms as a druid. So a druid can turn into a bear and a cat and stuff like that. But because I started going down that road, I then felt like I couldn't come back off it. So when And one of the things that limited me was when I went into beast mode, I couldn't use weapons. So I couldn't really get that epic level loot and start using it because I was totally spec towards beast mode. So I could get some epic level loot, like an epic sword or something like that. But I couldn't do anything with it because I would have to take my beast mode off, and then I would lose all the other bonuses that I got out of being in beast mode.
Okay.
So I'm not going to do that again with the druid, but it was fun just sitting there, trying to figure out where am I going to go with this character. So I'm going to go. I've taken bear form. Like, I'm going to take this talent that will beast up my bear form a bit, and then I can get these skills that will really assist in that and stuff like that.
But you've got your sort of your deck from the start. So I mean, you do like a lot of downtime, so you can spend. I spent a lot of that time just sort of going through, the sort of skills that you get when you level up to kind of plan.
Decks,
right, okay, what's going to go here? And I think by the time I'd sort of gotten to like we were getting up to the near level 6, I'd had all that like planned out for ages. So I pretty much just whacked down each time what I wanted there. I went for just full on fire mage basically.
Yeah, you
did.
Everything
you didn't have any doubts
about everything on fire.
Yeah, some of us maybe attempted to change direction of our
I
leveling up, whereas you were quite confident what to do.
You could kind of see, and it's something you don't even, I suppose in that case, you don't particularly need to be familiar with how World of Warcraft works to get, because how the mechanics of each thing are explained on the card, you kind of see how it all ties into each other and go, alright, okay, so I can really boost this particular spell or ability and just sort of work with that basically. And I went down that route with just having one fireball that sorted everything out. And it did,
and it worked. And it worked because, and I think it worked a lot when you were teaming up with us, because me and John, like John was a paladin, you were a mage and I was a druid, and basically the way that I'd spec my druid was just total bear form, which meant that, and because John was a paladin, it just meant that me and John were going into the fight and then totally tanking just tanking the hell out of everything that was there, so that you could just come in and obliterate them. And it really worked. Like that whole, the way they've got that whole sort of teaming up with people, that really does work, and it's really necessary. It's really impressive how they've done it. And it's really necessary when you're going up against the bosses and stuff, or the dungeons and all that sort of thing. But that moves us into the combat of this game, right? Now, I've always said that the combat system in this game is one of my favourite combat systems
beautiful.
ever. It is really, really well done. Because basically you've got your character sheet in front of you, and you might have your skills and abilities on there, and you've got your health, and you've got your energy and stuff like that. And they use energy as an all-encompassing thing in this, so it's not like World of Warcraft. You've got
different resources for different classes.
Rogues have energy, and mages have mana, and all that sort of, warriors have rage. They just use energy because it simplifies things, and it works.
Having
really
said that, a number of the classes in this board game do have their own mechanics as well. Rogues might have energy, just like all the others, but you'll know from the video game that rogues have whatever energy, but also base their abilities on combos and finishers, and they've managed to replicate that mechanic in the board game as well. So there's going to be that. But sorry, I got in the way. You were talking about the mechanics.
So we're talking about the combat system. So like, whatever skills and weapons and armour and stuff you've got equipped, you'll go through the cards and then you'll just read what they say, and it'll say stuff like, this sword adds 2 red dice to your pool. So there's 3 different colours of dice. There's red, blue and green. Red's basically melee combat, green is basically defensive, and blue is pretty much ranged, but also sort of like magic and stuff like that. Like magic spells, basically anything you do from
preemptive damage.
So you'll maybe go through and you'll say like, okay, this sword adds 2 red dice, and this armour adds 2 green dice, and this spell, so maybe your fireball spell, whatever it is, will add however many, 3 blue dice or something like that. But then it'll also have other options on it as well, so it'll be like, if you use this thing, then you also get to re-roll 2 dice, and if you use this thing, you'll get what's called attrition hits, which are basically like free hits. Or if you use this thing, then you can spot a die that's 5 or up, to turn some other die into an 8 or something like that. So you've got all these little things that seem to work and link up well together, like, and that's like part of the beauty of the thing, is just like, I can set up this perfect system where if I'm doing this and I've rolled at least 2 4s, then I can re-roll these dice and I can do that and change these dice to 8s and stuff like that, and you can, and it works so well. Now, you put your hits, when you roll your hits, it depends on what dice you've rolled, so there's 3 spaces in the combat box on the board. There's the ranged, well, which is basically that's the damage
Just
box.
its damage, yeah. I think it's...
You've got the defense box and you've got the attrition box. So all your free attrition hits go in the attrition box. All your sort of blue dice hits go into the damage box, and all your red and green dice they go into the defense box. Now, green dice put shield tokens in, red dice just put normal hits in. And then what you do is you look at how much damage is in the damage box. So Euan, you were the mage who was just basically walking into a fight and throwing fireballs at people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, especially when you were up against things like murlocs and stuff like that, you were obliterating them in one go.
Oh, yeah,
because if there's enough damage tokens in that box to kill your enemy, they're dead.
And they're not going to do anything to you.
And they're not going to do anything to you. But if there isn't, then you look at the defense box and you see how much. See, if you're up 2 murlocs, if they hit you for however much it was, 3 each, so that's 6. You count up how many tokens are in the defense box, and if you've got at least 6, you're not taking any damage from it. If you've got less than that, then it's the difference. That's how much damage you take. Then you move all the attrition hits and all the hit tokens from your red dice into the damage box and look at it again. If there's enough tokens in there to kill your murlocs, they're dead. If not, you have another combat round. And it works so well. It's really elegant. It's I mean, for a game that's came out in 2005, that's a really inspired combat system.
It's because it's deep. It may feel complicated at first simply because there's many colors of dice on the board, and there's lots of dice and there's lots of cards. But by the time you're going through your second or third round, you fully comprehend the entire thing. And instead of worrying what exactly you're doing, you're thinking about your strategies. You're thinking about how to tailor your character to make the best use of your particular class with those dice, and the game actually encourages you to make sure that you specialize slightly differently from your friends, so that somebody is tanking, somebody is healing, somebody is dealing a lot of damage. This is so true to what World of Warcraft should be.
Well, it's why it is important to basically take things on as a group in this, because a lot of the time you're just on your own. You're not going to be able to get the hits in that you need. The one thing that I would say about it, because I really like the combat system, the way that you place hits into the box. I find that really inspired, but it is a bit like, especially in the later, like, higher levels, it is a bit fiddly.
Oh yeah, it gets really fiddly.
Like, it's one of those things that's like, it's just going to be like that. But do be prepared if you're playing this game. Like, you're just rolling a bunch of dice and then spending ages working out exactly what it is that you've just rolled, and like what you can affect, what you can change. That can take a while.
It can.
Just that one sort of part of the combat round, essentially. And when you've got 3 people on a team
all
doing
rolling,
that, it can get a bit laborious, and that's probably what took a lot of the time.
Counting and pushing damage around, definitely.
There did get to a point in the higher levels where there just was not enough space in that combat box to hold all the tokens that people were rolling. It was like, by the time that all 3 characters in one team had rolled all their damage against one enemy, it was like the boxes were just completely crammed full. We started to run out of tokens at one point because, like, Craig and stuff like that were just doing so much damage that there was just nothing left.
But that's what being on top level, whatever maximum level, that was 6th level, I think. That's what it's all about, yes.
But it was true what you were saying about, like, the different roles. Like, you do need to have somebody tanking and that, because, like, Euan as a mage, if you didn't get those, like, that straight up just blue damage dice, kill that enemy straight away, especially when you were at low level.
Oh yeah.
If that enemy hit you were in real trouble.
Yeah.
Like,
and there is a point with this, and again it goes into the sort of, when the dice bit gets a bit complicated, is knowing, because sometimes you'll roll for something and you go, right, look, that's obviously, you won't even need to bother placing this, because you can kind of, it's dead. And like in early levels, I think I absolutely obliterated the first thing I came across, because like, right, you just put all my energy in, just go for this. And then I kept doing it for the next few folk and realised, I didn't need to do that, and I probably should have known that going into it, but you kind of just you end up overcompensating to begin with, and I've ended up like constantly having to rest and recharge my energy, which probably slowed us down in the early stages of the game, I think.
And this is probably where also strategies come into play, because Horde and Alliance played slightly differently in the early stage of the game. You guys split and got quite a lot of experience points probably because you were doing your quests, as in a single person was doing a single quest.
Yeah.
Whereas we've started as a group and split only after a while. In the end, everybody joins up and runs around together because monsters and quests are getting harder, and you just have to. But I suppose it's fairly important to judge when is it safe to attempt to do something solo, and we felt, as in the Alliance felt at the beginning, that maybe we're just being a little bit too cautious because we kept walking around together, so we were just overkilling everything. But my character hasn't died once in this game, so maybe.
What? Well, we had a discussion about that earlier.
But you may have
cheated slightly.
No. I relied on your explanations for that. But in all fairness, even if I was overhealing, that would just mean, getting slightly more damage, but that wouldn't have killed me anyway.
Whatever,
well, you said you guys were a bit worried about, or that you thought we need to get out there and just fight individually, but wasn't it the first time that Craig went off on his own, thought he just got annihilated by
he
something?
did.
Whereas we did alright. We both survived our first, and we've got loads of experience. John died on his first one, kind of unluckily.
Yeah.
So it set him back a bit.
But that's something, the beginning of this game is always the worst part. In terms of, it can almost be 50-50 on whether you'll survive or die if you go out and fight something on your own. Because you're such low level, you've not got much going on for you.
Well,
so you've not got any tricks up your sleeve or anything like that.
The kind of choices that you're sort of it was reminiscent of Runebound at the beginning of Rune. You're just you're likely just to get killed by the first thing you encounter, even just low level stuff.
Now, what surprised me quite a lot as we kept playing was that, because we're talking about all these quests now and how we build our classes and how we work together. The overall goal in the game was obviously to level up as fast as possible so that you can reach the final boss before the other team. And one of the contributing factors, and I'm not sure if it wasn't one of the major factors, was the actual placement of harassing monsters on the board.
Yes.
Because the board wasn't that easy to traverse. Plenty of mountains here and there. You can't just move everywhere you like, and both teams are given powers by various randomly drawn cards to move certain type of monsters or certain category, I'm gonna say, around the board to just screw things up a little bit for everybody. And we kept playing with it until it got really, really tight everywhere, and I think you guys for quite some time were really just blocked in.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason why we just did not progress for a while. Yeah. It was just because there was too many of those blue independent monsters, as they're called, which if there's quest monsters on the board, you can walk past them, don't have to fight them. But if there's blue monsters on the board, you have to fight those, and there's pretty much no reward for it. Except in one of the expansions added in a thing where you do get a little bit of reward for it, but it's not much.
It's not a lot.
But that really hindered us.
Yeah.
We just kept on getting screwed over.
But
it was also the placements of our quests just did not help. They were
we
so
had to
far
go,
apart,
and they were always in slightly awkward places.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think certainly with the independent monsters being about, is that not part of the design of the game to make things harder as you go on? Because it's kind of set up in the, because when you draw a quest, it'll give you sometimes just the one location where there'll be an enemy you have to go and fight, but sometimes there'll be an extra location that'll say, right, put a blue one in here.
Yeah.
And you can go kill the other one, complete the quest, and the blue one's still hanging about.
One's still there,
so you end up just, as you go on, there's just more and more of them popping up around the board.
And they're a pain in the arse, because they completely stop you from doing anything.
They just
you have to
down.
fight them. You can't go past them. So.
And we started having some quite strong ones coming out, and then cards that would affect them to make them stronger. So we don't even really want to take these on because we might get killed, and there's nothing really for us killing them. Right.
I think we've pretty much touched on most of the things that make World of Warcraft the board game what it is.
Yeah.
Now, did you enjoy the game, Euan?
I would say, like I say, I've kind of brought up a couple of reservations I had about it.
Yeah.
And I stand by them.
That's fine.
But the game is satisfying to play.
It is.
Like you've been saying about the levelling up system, the actual combat system. So when you are actually playing it, I can't fault it for for how it works and everything like that. But yeah, the kind of, I think you need to be prepared and maybe have a lot of space and a lot of sort of personal room to be like, right, I'm just going to keep an eye on things here, and I'll have a cup of tea or sit down for a bit. Just know that you're in for maybe a wee bit of a wait at points.
Pawel.
I loved it. But I played World of Warcraft for quite some time, and I did play some other MMORPGs. Not recently, but I think my recent one was Elder Scrolls Online, which is actually a very good one as well. But I feel that MMORPGs, more so than anything else, are about making your ideal, polished character build or class build. You spend most of the time just tinkering with that, plus whatever items that complement it. And I believe that this game has managed to capture this particular experience. I was one of those that actually had to retreat before the game finished, so I gave my heroic shaman to the rest of the Alliance players to make sure that they actually survive.
Became an NPC.
I became an NPC, yes, exactly. But to me, killing the final boss, as much as it may have been an ultimate goal, I think I got out of this game what I didn't even expect to get in such shape. The feeling of a guiding progression of your character and achieving this moment when you think, yeah, that's me. I'm fully kitted out. I've got all my talents and all my skills spec'd the way I want it, and it just feels good.
Cool. Because my feelings in the game, right? I've played it a hell of a lot more than you guys have. You kind of played a game of it.
Played, yeah, but I barely remembered anything of going into it.
Because that was many years ago, and we didn't finish it. It was just one of these things that, let's try this out, let's go to the pub. That was basically what happened. Yeah. But, because my feelings on it, right, I haven't played it a lot, is that, see, the vast majority of times I've played it, I've only played it with one team. We've just not played with the other side. So it's only been like 2 people or 3 people.
Yeah.
And we've just basically ignored any like event cards that came out that apply to anything that was like wars or anything like that.
Right.
Because it was almost like playing it as you would play the video game. So like you're kind of just playing it on your own.
Yeah.
You're not worried about what the Alliance are doing.
Yeah, we should probably mention that the PvP aspect of the
PvP
game is minimal.
It does exist, but it feels almost pointless.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really get anything out of it other than hindering the other team, and it's just an annoyance. So we just ignored it.
I remember thinking in the early stage of the game, before I realised it was just going on and on, that it would have been quite good at the end to just have a combat round between the 2 teams.
Just to see what happens.
Just to see at both their sort of highest levels.
But... So, right, I've done that loads of times, played this game, and I've really enjoyed it, because it feels really chilled out, relaxed. It's just a couple of friends that are just sitting, playing through, passing some time, just play this board game sort of thing, and it's pretty cool. Having now played it for the first time with 6 people, 3 on each side, with all the expansions and all that, I'm not sure that I can do that again. Alright, now... Not to say that I dislike the game.
Yeah.
The game, I really enjoyed the game. The mechanics of it are beautiful. It's just too long.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I would probably do if I was to play it again would be probably only play it with 4 people if we were going to do it 2 sides. I would probably just bin the event deck. Just get rid of it.
I think you could do without it.
Because I don't think it adds anything to the game.
No.
The event deck is just a bunch of random things that might come out. You do get some interesting things, like you might get to move some blue monsters around, or you might get to use an airship.
That's why you got annoyed when you kept... I'm sorry.
No, sorry, what were you going to say?
I remember you getting annoyed at an event card that kept forcing you to spend 1 gold whenever you were moving in East Flaglands.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that just feels like, why would you want to slow the game down even more? Like, why would you do that? I mean, and like I say, there are some useful ones, like the airship one that let you move to a friendly town or something like that. That's pretty useful, and some of the auction house things, but like I basically benefited out of that by getting some boots of swiftness or something.
Oh, yeah.
They let me move an extra space, which was actually really useful, but at the same time, there's too much crap in there that's just like... And the fact that you have to keep drawing them until you get one that doesn't have a plus sign on it, so it's like you could end up going through 7 or 8 event cards every time that event cards are supposed to be drawn.
Yeah.
So I would say I would just bin that deck. Just get rid of it. I like the one that was added in by the expansions. The one that did things that lasted a certain number of rounds and certain things happened and stuff.
There was a few interesting
Some of those
ones.
were really quite interesting. So I would probably keep those, but yeah, bin the event deck. Just bin it. Ban PvP combat. Just get rid of that. And it's mainly just because, because my big gripe with the game is how long it takes and how much downtime there is. And there's nothing, I'm a board gamer, through and through. And there's nothing that annoys me more than people with analysis paralysis, and that's what this game is like. It's like playing a game with 5 other people that all have analysis paralysis.
You're all at it,
and it's
the whole
not
time.
through any fault of their own.
Yeah.
It's just because that's how long the turns take. So yeah, I would probably cut down the number of players that are playing, get rid of things like the event deck, and just speed things up a little bit. And I would definitely love this game if we did it that way.
Well, it does seem a game that's kind of blends itself to you customising it slightly. I mean, I know you've done that before with it, with sort of taking away the sort of time limit on the game and that sort of thing.
Well, that's what one of the expansions does. They kind of recognise that 30 turn limit doesn't work, so they just say in the expansions, just ignore that.
Well, I mean, you could even just set up a stream could just go, right, we'll not play with blue monsters, we'll just go.
Oh yeah, you could do that as well.
You
Yeah,
could do things.
It's little things like little tweaks that you can make to it that would probably. I did see
they're
an
not going to break
interesting.
the game if you do it.
I did see an interesting alternative way of playing the game.
Right.
That somebody had put up on Board Game Geek, which was basically points based. So instead of having this whole rush towards the overlord and whoever can get there first, because that's just a race basically. It was instead that you just played a certain number of turns, whether it's 30 or 40 or 50, 60, whatever, and then by the time that turn limit runs out, you've throughout the game you've kept track of how many different coloured quests you've done, how many independent monsters you've killed, how many bosses you might have beaten, dungeons and stuff like that, and you just total up points and then see which side wins. And that was quite an interesting wee alternative way of doing it.
I think that'd be a good, because I mean there's a lot of stuff when you've got this sort of finish post thing. It kind of, you lose a lot of the end game stuff that seems to be in there. Like the Outlands has got sort of high level dungeons and things like that, which you weren't really going to bother with.
We just kind of ignored that, aye.
Because, well, at that point, both teams are going, well, we can go and try and kill the Overlord, so why bother? And
going through this dungeon, aye.
You're losing out on stuff that's in the game. And, we started getting into the dungeons and sort of from about level 3 onwards, and they were starting to get quite interesting. They were genuinely challenging as well. I mean, we got
the dungeon thing's really good.
Yeah.
What was it we did? Scarlet Monastery?
Scarlet Monastery and somewhere else where we got absolutely humped, I think.
Yeah, I think we nearly did. I think we did manage it in the end.
I think, we just got through.
Yeah, we scraped through that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good game. I mean, I do enjoy it. I think it does need changes made to it, especially nowadays. That game's now 11 years old, and it's kind of showing its age, because I'm sure I've said this before, that there was a tendency about 10 years ago for there to be big epic games that lasted a long time, and the tendency over the past few years has been to try and streamline that, which is why you're now seeing things like Runebound 2nd Edition, Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, all that kind of thing. It's just to try and speed games up a bit, and I would like to see that done to this game. Unfortunately, Fantasy Flight lost the license with Blizzard to make games for them about 5 years ago. Okay. So yeah, we've sat and reviewed this entire game. It's not available anymore.
Is it?
No, it's not available. Alright.
What?
Cannot buy this game.
Wait, I didn't know this. Right, let's just ditch this entire episode of the podcast.
But it's worth talking about, because it's an interesting game, and you can pick up. People are selling second-hand
I'm sure
copies.
there's plenty of copies.
I mean, I had to get the expansion second-hand on eBay.
It's not the sort of game that every single person needs to own. Just
No.
enough people so somebody can have a go.
If you've been a big World of Warcraft fan, if you enjoy the original game and stuff like that, you will probably enjoy this board game, because it does, like we've talked about, it does have a lot of similarities to the actual video game, and it's amazing that they've managed to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah, it's an epic game.
Pavel, would you like to describe the game in a word?
Epic loot! That's 2 words.
I'm going to go with your first word.
Okay, well that's 40 minutes of World of Warcraft, the board game, talked about. So I think we'll take a break here, and then when we come back we'll talk about some video games. And we are back. And we're here to talk about a strange mishmash of video games for you.
Yay.
That was a bit weird.
That's enthusiasm, obviously. Just, you know.
Okay.
One
Right.
expression of enthusiasm.
So, first thing up for me, I've been streaming a game called Dino System. So, yet again, another survival game. And Jesus Christ, what a brutal survival game this is. So, it's following on that same vein as, like, Ark Survival Evolved. You know, it's a dinosaur thing, so you're surviving. But they've gone for that more realistic survival.
You're
You're not building, like, weird bases and finding out strange things like happens in Ark Survival Evolved. In this, you are just a naked caveman. There is a big disclaimer at the start of the game, actually, which says, please note that humans did not live with dinosaurs. So, they've pointed that out.
Yeah.
But it's a top-down 2D thing. So it's not like isometric or anything, it's literally top-down. So you just see the top of your caveman's head.
Aye.
And you just start off, like, next to a sea, I think it is, just so you're on the coast. And you have to try and survive, and Jesus, it's difficult. It's got so much, there's so much to it for such a sort of simple looking game.
Yeah.
That it's unreal, and like it even goes to the point of it's got a picture of your stomach, and it shows you what exactly is
Contents
inside
of
your
your
stomach.
stomach,
Yeah,
yeah.
the context of your stomach. So how much of it is like liquid, how much of it is solid, and all that kind of thing.
Is that important? Does that
It is actually important to your survival. Yeah.
Aye.
He gets thirsty
you don't-
or he gets hungry. Or
Alright.
Yeah, but then your
got
stomach
doesn't have a
indigestion or
solid
something.
bowel movement or not.
Yeah, so your stomach can only hold so much. So if you fill up with liquid and you really need to eat, you're kind of screwed. It's because you can't
Just
fit
force
anything
it in.
else in there.
Just force it in. And
You can just force it in,
Yeah.
but then you become bloated and you're basically unable to do anything. So
That's fine.
you know,
that's,
like-
that's real life.
post-Christmas dinner sort of effect. So yeah, there's just like there's trees and there's rocks and there's dinosaurs and there's no scaling in this game. It doesn't just put you in a sort of an area where there's just very small, low-level dinosaurs or anything. Nah, you can just spawn in an area where there's a T-Rex on top of you and you're fucked. Like, it is so brutal.
Alright.
So you walk around. It took me so long to get to grips with how to actually do anything in this game, and it seems to be that there are certain things, just like in most survival games, that you really should just be focusing on. One of them is getting food. Now, in order to do that, you're going to be looking in trees for coconuts or apples or something like that. Or you can go and hunt dinosaurs, and you're going to need to do that at some point because your guy complains that he's not got enough protein. Right? He really
He's
does. He
moaning about his
complains. He
protein.
just, I need some proteins. And was it you or was it Dave that pointed out? Was it you, Pawel?
I think it may have been me, yes.
Yeah, that this caveman seems to know a hell of a lot about nutrition. He's complaining about not having enough protein.
Yeah.
You get used to cavemen just saying meat, but this guy says protein.
Oh, he thinks he's some kind of clever clog.
Yeah. So
Ooh, protein.
So you're going to have to get some protein at some point, but the days go by pretty quickly. And
The temperature drops
the
really.
the temperature drops.
40 Celsius during the day and then -3 during nights and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it's fucking crazy. So you're going to need to build a fire. Now, it took me ages to realise that actually I should build a fire pit, because you can just start a fire, but it's much more difficult to do if you've not got a fire pit set up. But there's all sorts of things going on. So in order to light a fire, you're going to have to go and find some stones, you're going to have to find some fuel, so you have to break some branches off some trees, pile all this stuff up in one place, and then get a couple of stones. But then there's just that chance, so it takes a wee while for him to get his fire going, to sitting there trying to light his fire, and then your stones break. And there's just a chance that your stones will break, and it's just like...
Or that he's going to cut himself.
Or yeah, and he hits himself with the stones as well while he's doing these things, so then you start bleeding, and then
Oh, you got a wound
becomes-
that you can't deal with.
Here's a bit of a Twitch advertisement for you, because I've seen a couple of Chris's Twitches, and they're all quite entertaining, but I must say that in this particular case, it wasn't just Chris having fun with the game.
Oh, God, no.
Instead, what you see is Chris literally struggling for survival, And then you can see a glimmer of hope on his face because he's planned things well. He's actually got a plan. You can see him trying to fulfill it. Everything is going well. And then there is this sudden moment of silence when he's not even able to actually swear. And when I saw that swear word just die off in your lips and you just couldn't make a sound when those... You had everything ready, and everything was going against you. You've prepared everything. No, it started raining. You had to move somewhere. You wanted to do stuff. No, you had to take a nap. You got hungry, and so all your big bonfire plan just kept getting postponed. And at some point, you were properly prepared. You started making it, and your whatever Flintstone just broke or something. And then there was this lovely 2 or 3 seconds of Chris saying absolutely nothing.
Just staring at the walls, just completely distraught. It's like, what the fuck? Why does this world hate me?
I heard you shouting a lot of it last night.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was streaming it last night.
That was when he was still having fun.
Yeah. But I mean, once I did start getting things going, it was a lot better. I mean, it took me so long just to make a cloak for my naked man. Like, I had to kill a dinosaur, and then you have to cut the pelts off it, but you need, 4 pelts, and then you have to clean the pelts. But then you've got things like muscle soreness in this game. Believe me, muscle soreness. So if you're sitting doing too much stuff, your muscles get sore, you stop being efficient, your guy gets tired, he wants to sleep, so then you're sitting there with, a dead dinosaur next to you, a triceratops sitting behind a tree, and then you're just like, I need a nap. And you're just like, fucking Jesus Christ, guy, will you just get your act together, and just...
It's a lot of work, though. Skinning an animal, I imagine, is an all-day task.
It is. I mean, it takes ages. It does take ages, and then... But the other thing is,
especially when you cut yourself.
When you've got, you've killed a dinosaur and you're sitting there right, okay, finally, I've cut a dinosaur. And the dinosaurs, they give you a lot of stuff that you need. You've got tendons. You need tendons if you want to make a bow. You need pelts if you want to make a cloak. You need meat, obviously, if you want to get some protein in you. And meat's the best food to eat. So, but you also want to build a fire. You can eat the meat raw, but it hurts you. It takes health off you if you do it.
Right.
So you want to try and cook it. I've only successfully cooked meat once. But so you're sitting there and then you take a nap because your guy's absolutely exhausted after having hunted this dinosaur down and dragged it under a tree and to keep it out of the rain.
Yeah.
And then you start cutting the pelts and then you have a nap and then you wake up and find that some dinosaurs come along and eating all the meat that you've cut out of this thing, and you're just sitting there just like, for fuck's sake.
Oh.
And then I got to a point in it last night where I'd got a fire pit set up, I'd successfully started a fire, I had my pelt, I managed to make a backpack, and that was one of the things that I was so overjoyed about, was the fact that I finally had somewhere to keep things that wasn't just the ground underneath a tree.
Yeah, because for some reason that game relies on juggling things. Yes, you have 2 hand slots and
You've got 2 hand slots, yeah.
back slot or
and
something.
that's really fiddly.
Yeah.
So you've got a back slot, but you can only keep the weapon that you've got in your back slot.
Yeah.
So I kept making a stone axe, because stone axe is handy for hitting dinosaurs. I'm going to call them monsters there. They are monsters. Chopping down trees so you can get fuel and stuff like that. It's a pretty all-round tool that you can have. You can use it for cutting up meat and stuff like that as well.
Cutting yourself.
And cutting myself, aye. But yeah, so I had to sort of stop playing it at that point, because I was just like, right, I've finally achieved something. I've got a cloak, I've got my backpack, I've got a fire pit.
You can imagine this caveman just saying, I made backpack.
And it was such a relief.
Being mauled by so many dinosaurs.
I was just sitting there saying in the Twitch chat, just how the hell did cavemen survive at all? If this is the kind of shit they had to go through. Obviously there was no dinosaurs about, but there's other things going on. It's how are we as a species even here?
Yeah.
But I mean, Pavel, what did you think of it when you were sitting watching me?
Well, firstly, I'm going to say that if you're having such existential thoughts after playing this game, then well done.
Thanks,
and whoever
thanks.
made this game should be proud. They delivered, maybe not realistic, but definitely unforgiving survival experience. Secondly, I thought that this game is a true test of patience and possibly character, because if there are rage quitters in the gaming world, which will pretty much just throw down a controller whenever something goes not according to what they'd like, they wouldn't last more than a couple of minutes in this game.
I'd say if you're not like accustomed to playing survival games, this is not for you, because this really is brutal.
I've recently managed to play through maybe 10 days worth of Don't Starve.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it actually, and then some tree monster just sneak kill me, and I was what?
I hate those things.
What actually happened? But I really enjoyed myself, and I sort of almost knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I just kept I was lost when you were playing that.
The thing about Don't Starve is that Don't Starve kind of does point you in a certain direction, because there are things that are kind of obvious about what you should be doing in Don't Starve in terms of like, you know, getting your food together and building a little camp and all that sort of thing. In this game, it's just not obvious at all what you should be doing. It took me so long just to figure out how to even make a stone axe. I mean, it's there, but it was trying to get all the stuff together for it. It was like, yeah, you need a large rock, and it's like, well, I can wander about trying to find the large rock for ages. It took me ages to realise that I could just walk up to a boulder and try and break it apart, basically. But it's not obvious that you can do that. So yeah, it took me a long time, and the longest I've survived so far, I think when I saved that game last night, I was only in day 5. And my record before that was only 3 days. That's how brutal this game is.
Now, the whole top view that you have in this game, you can get used to it. You can get used to your character just having essentially a head and shoulders and possibly a weapon and things like this. And actual terrain, whatever, trees, stuff like that. That looks alright. I just couldn't get to grips with those dinosaurs looking the way they do, because again, this is a top view. Just you see them from the top. They don't essentially move. It's almost like looking at tokens moving on the board. Well,
it's worth pointing out this game's early access. This game's nowhere near finished. They're adding in so much more stuff to it, apparently.
Well, if we could please just add like tail wobbling, yes, some sort of movement of necks and tails for the dinosaurs, please.
That T-Rex moves enough once it's grabbed hold of you and started shaking you around, because that's what it does, and then it throws you across the.
Alright, because I've only ever seen these sort of graze hits when you would.
Oh yeah, the cows is usually what you were calling them.
Cow sows.
It's like Triceratops. Pavel's like, that looks like a delicious cow. You should kill that, and I'm like, nah.
That could be trouble.
I'm not taking on a Triceratops. But sometimes the dinosaurs, even the ones that are supposed to be sort of docile, like, you know, like the plant eaters and stuff like that, sometimes if you just go too near them, they will just headbutt you. Like, I was just trying to push my way past some like little friendly looking dinosaur, and it just smacked me one. It didn't chase me or anything, it just decided to hit me as I walked past.
and Dave and I started rejoicing just then, because that's what you do.
Oh yeah. They were cheering on the dinosaurs.
I imagine they
Go
were.
get him, Cowsour!
Cowsaur?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is,
delightfully complex.
It's complex. It takes. I mean, what's complex about it is the actual survival part of it, in terms of like, it does like the muscle soreness and how much strength you have. You have to look at that, because that changes depending on your muscle soreness and stuff. Apparently, getting a decent amount of muscle soreness and then eating some protein increases your strength, just like real life. So you work out and then you eat some protein. There you go, and you get stronger. But there's all sorts of other things like the wind. You've got to take that into account. You've got things like the temperature. I mean, I couldn't light a fire because I'd basically piled all my stuff up into a fire pit, but it was -3, so all the stuff instantly froze. I couldn't light my fire, so my guy's sitting there freezing his balls off, not able to get a fire going. Anytime he tried to light a fire, he was just going, no, what was it he said? No chance or something like that. It was just like,
there was a lot of conversation during the streaming between the player and his character.
I was having conversations with this guy. He'd be sitting there screaming, "Oh, I'm hungry." I'm like, "I know, man, but you need to make this backpack." Sitting there trying to console him.
Can't eat a backpack, man.
But because there's all the other things, like you've got stamina in it and stuff, and then you got your health, and you might start bleeding, and then blah blah blah.
Yeah, these epic hunting trips when you start chasing a small Cowser, and the small Cowser suddenly and you're faster than him, and you can connect one hit, and you've nearly killed the small Cowser, but then the Cowser simply has more stamina than you, and then you get winded, and you slow down, and the Cowser runs away,
and then he starts complaining that he wants a nap, and
just the others have a sleep.
It's just constant. Just there is nothing that goes right. Even when I'd managed to get all my bars kind of filled up, I was like, all right, I've got loads of food, I've got loads of water, I've slept well and stuff like that, and I was just like, but I can't stop. I have to keep going. I have to keep trying to find more food and more water and all that sort of thing. It just doesn't end.
There's something existential in this all.
Yeah.
Like, life is all about constant moaning and the drive to accumulate things.
Welcome to capitalism. So yeah, that's Dino System, and that is by, Black Shell Media. Now it's available on Steam only, as far as I can tell. It's only like £5 or something like that. It's, but like I say, it's early access. It's only on version 0.6, I think. So we'll see what the future holds for that game. But I mean, the game is quite addictive. I mean, I've just, even though I've just been dying constantly, I've just been going back going, I can do this, I can do this, I can do it, please, I can do, oh god, the T-Rex is eating me again.
It's the kind of feeling you do get with Don't Starve as well, you just it's quite, I've died quite depressingly, but I'm up for another shot.
Yeah.
In Don't Starve, you do unlock new characters and things like this. Is there any progress so far? Is it just...
There's nothing like that in Dino System. I mean, the characters, you do have skills in this. I mean, you make your character at the start of the game, you can put points into things. I would recommend put points in athletics. Okay, don't ignore athletics, because that's what gives you your speed that lets you chase down these little bastard dinosaurs that you're going to need to eat. Other things, like you've got skills that are like fire making and crafting and gathering and stuff like that. Those are three things that I would recommend putting points in as well. Crafting, yes, because you can't make certain things unless your crafting's at a certain level. So yes, you want to put that up to level 40 or something like that if you can.
But your crafting increases, you make more stuff.
Yeah, it goes up the more you do certain things. So if you're trying to constantly light fires, your fire making will go up. Although, as far as I can tell, it doesn't seem to help very much.
You're still cutting yourself on
even
a flint.
Because when it's freezing fucking cold, you're not going to be able to light a fire, or it's pissing down with rain or something like that. You're just going to have to sit there and freeze to death. It's beautiful.
Wonderful.
Beautiful game. Dino System.
Enjoy freezing to death.
Right, Euan, we're going to talk about a couple of VR games now. PlayStation VR games. So, Euan, you want to revisit Windlands, because you've been playing a hell of a lot of this.
Well, I battered through basically the whole first level. I mean, there's you start off in this game, there's a little bit you're sort of guided through, and then you go to a central hub, and there's, I think, 3 areas that you can go to from there.
Yeah, 3 portals.
Yeah. And basically in each one of those you can collect these crystals. Generally they're all at the sort of, it's kind of obvious that there'll be certain bits, like in the first level you go in, there's kind of 2 different really sort of high points that you can get to. There's actually a third that I found as one of the crystals is sort of hiding up, sort of almost behind the starting area. But yeah, it's got that feeling now to me of just like a legitimate platformer, where the sort of stuff where you're just like, no, I want to find out what's up here. I'm going to keep, and because it's got its own style to it as well. I mean, I'm really impressed.
So just to be clear, like, Windlands is a VR game where you have a couple of grappling hooks, and you can only grapple onto certain things, and you're constantly swinging about. And don't play it standing up, because you get wobbly legs.
I enjoyed doing it for a bit.
Yeah, it loses its appeal after a while.
Yeah,
there's a couple of those.
Probably going to be a bit sick.
Couple of bits where you have to land on some very small platforms and make you feel like you might fall over. In real life.
Yeah,
because your brain can't process what's going on. So
it really does sort of take in the motion of what you're doing. Even when you're sitting down, it's quite exhilarating. I mean, sort of, it does let you play with certain different modes at the start. But as far as I can tell, like the switching off all there's things like you can hook on anything. And you get like a cage around you. I assume for people who really get freaked out by VR,
so
that's like they don't feel like they're going to fall and die or something like that. But the game feels like it's meant to be played without all that stuff, really. And you're only able to hook onto these bushes that are about the place, and it would seem odd to play without that because they'd be like, why are there all these really strategically placed bushes about the place? I mean, the levels are designed around them, and it's pretty impressive the sort of the ways you can do it. I mean, on like the first level and stuff, once you kind of get up to these high points as well to get these crystals, you find yourself sort of able to, right, oh, it took me ages to get up here, but I'm just going to jump off this high ledge and just float for ages, find some random point, and you sort of skip out about half the level getting back to the start again. But you do have to kind of, one of the things that is a wee bit, there's no sort of I don't know, portal system to get you around the levels. So if you do miss something, because there are little collectibles and things like that, you're gonna have to go back up there again. So yeah, there's sort of, I don't know what it is, basically like sort of starting points that you can, when you sort of run through them, that'll be your
spawn point.
Your spawn point. That's it. Don't know why I couldn't remember that word. I've said it often enough on this podcast. But yeah, so you can kind of get stuck at spawn points that are a wee bit annoying to get back from. Yeah. And then you're going through that, and it's like, I've done this before. This is a wee bit frustrating, but I guess there's a lot of platformers have elements like that, where you're just constantly going through the same grind for quite a while.
But you start to get good at it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You start developing weird ways of doing it.
It's like, oh, this bit again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
But it does, it sets you up to kind of do, I've gotten to places I didn't think I could get to, because you kind of go, okay, well, there is this here, and you kind of, sometimes you get lucky, something, your just reflexes are just absolutely on point, and you get the right boost, and you get the swing perfect up to, like, it's definitely building up to you doing more sort of acrobatics with that, because I've unlocked the second area, and I've struggled to get anywhere in there, to be honest.
So you feel like there's tricks?
Oh yeah, you really do have to be accurate and have to get sort of good swings and everything like that. Using the grappling hooks. It's the second area's kind of got just lots of these. It's like these sort of towers, like floating castles and things like that. It's less of the kind of just sort of floating clumps of earth with trees on it and things like that. And there are these sort of vines. So there's a lot less of the bushes that you can grapple onto.
All right, cool.
And so you're really having to think about where you're going for it.
One of the things I really liked about Windlands, because you've played it a lot more than me, because I feel like I need to actually sit down and just play it one day, like sit and play through a whole load of it.
I think if you're willing to just sit and commit, you get through quite a lot of it.
There was one part in that sort of first area that you unlock where it was basically like I was standing at the edge of a cliff thing, which was slightly raised towards the end. And then there was a platform off in the distance, and there's something about wearing that VR headset where you sit there and you think to yourself, right, if this was a normal platformer, I would just make that jump. But if you're wearing a VR headset, it feels like a leap of faith. It feels like
it actually is.
If I fuck this up, this is going to feel more wrong than if it was just a normal game. Like, and then I made that jump and I landed it perfectly, sort of thing. And there was something really satisfying about that feeling of flying through the air. And if you're wearing the sort of earphone things, because there's something like in the VR headset, there's a thing that you can plug in headphones and stuff. You get that rushing sound in your ears, and it's beautiful. And it's like, so you're flying through the air, and all you can hear is. And then you can just see this platform kind of coming towards you as you drop down towards it. You're like, oh god, perfect. Yeah. And that's like that's what I love about this game. It's those little things in it.
It's a lot of fun, and just like there's obviously a lot of room for sort of building up your skill at it as well. Yeah. It's like I don't know if we mentioned this a few years. I was talking about how things like Rocket League, feel like there is a skill to learn how to play that game. It is not just a case of learning a sequence of buttons or anything like that. It's a fluid skill basically. It's sort of definitely pushing you towards that. And there's time trials and things like that you can unlock as well, which I've been doing. So you have to.
Oh really?
I
didn't know that.
Yeah. So the gates that you get from the central hub, there's sort of little mini ones next to them, and if you get certain crystals in those levels, you'll unlock those.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
There's one where there's like lots of different. It's kind of this one area where you can sort of go up and down quite a lot, and there's these 10 little gold balls essentially you have to go and find, and there's like sort of time trial thing for that, and there's another one that is just essentially like a path that you've a sort of course that have set up for you. And I was sort of like, all right, I'm properly like beasting through this. I'm getting really good at just swinging from it and like nailing the time here. And then I got to a certain point, and I'm just like, where are you even expecting me to go here? I think I can see a spawn point gate thing, but I cannot even fathom how you're expecting me to get to it. There just doesn't seem to be any way. Or there is one way that involves... see, one of the things I found as well that's in this is quite important is jumping off walls.
Yeah.
And sort of back and forth, because they do, in the sort of tutorial bit, they do sort of have a bit of that, and you're in like a narrow sort of shaft. There is that element in the later levels, but you've really got to get that right.
Yeah.
Or you're totally screwed.
I have done a bit like that in this, and that feels a lot weirder in VR than it does in
Oh, it does, yeah.
in just a normal platformer game, just jumping off walls to get up somewhere, because it's a lot harder to time it, apart from anything else. But yeah, it was pretty fun once I sort of realised that, oh yeah, if I do that, then I can get up there. And that was kind of fun, just like realising that was part of the game, essentially. Pavel, are you still terrified by this?
I don't think I'll be trying this one, no. Yes, the sound of wind in your ears as you're falling to your demise is not essentially where I find my fun in.
But I mean, as much as you do fall and everything, you never really feel any sense of peril.
No.
Yeah.
Particularly.
Okay, let's put it this way.
Yeah, but
you guys are worried whether you're going to land on a distant wee island.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm standing at the jump point, but not too close to the edge, and I'm not essentially sure whether I should probably just back away a little bit and just look for some more solid ground.
See, Pavel has that thing where he gets totally immersed in games, so he can't disconnect himself from it.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, in Windlands, like I've had moments where I've looked down off the edge of a cliff, and my head's telling me that I'm sitting on my couch looking at the floor. All right, but what my eyes are seeing is a distant floor, many hundreds of feet below me, and it does kind of put you off a bit.
It's trippy, man.
I don't know, I've had that headset on me and I couldn't really remember that there is a couch nearby, so
Well, that thing when you were playing Rush of Blood, when you were gripping onto the edge of the seat on the roller coaster,
that
was
roller
just
coaster
hilarious.
was lethal. Give me a killer clown any day, but no roller coasters, please.
Those were the scary parts in that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, Windlands is definitely one of the, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the best games for PSVR.
Yeah.
Well,
it feels like a VR game.
Yeah, it does. It feels like it's really been built for VR.
Yeah.
And I mean, the graphics, it's really colourful, really nice looking game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's bloody good. It's also one of the cheaper ones.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, because one of the complaints I've seen about PlayStation VR games is that a lot of them are like 40-50 quid, and there's not a lot of game in them because,
it's all just pretty.
It's all pretty, and it's all VR, and it's obviously taking up a lot more space. But this one, 15 quid on Steam, and 19 quid for PSVR, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So yes, that's Windlands. Excellent game.
Yeah.
And that's by SciTech Games, who are based in London, apparently. Right, so we're going to move on to another VR game, and I don't think... Have you even seen me playing this yet, Euan?
No, I wasn't aware you'd actually gotten hold of it.
Yeah, I picked it up last week, because I just saw it, and it had some pretty decent reviews, and it's called the Brookhaven Experiment. And it's one of these kind of... I don't care about the story in this. I don't think they've put too much work into the story. It's basically you're standing still. It's a shooter, okay? And it's got that sort of same style of graphics like Rush of Blood does. They're not great, but they're kind of like monsters coming towards you. It almost reminds me of like sort of PlayStation 2 graphics or something like that. But that's just the limitations of the
House
hardware.
of the Dead sort of thing.
Yeah. And there's just like zombie type monsters that are like almost like completely naked, sort of mutated bodies sort of thing that are coming towards you really slowly, but then there are bigger monsters that might appear. There's even bigger ones than that that'll take a hell of a lot of shooting. And it's one of these things where like you'll start off in one level and it's pretty basic. You've got a basic pistol and you might have a grenade or something like that, and your other hand's got a knife in it, but you can switch it to a flashlight, because a lot of this game takes place in sort of really dark areas. So you might want to turn your flashlight on, just look around a bit to see where things are coming from, maybe turn it off, because if things are coming towards you, you're going to want to use your knife to chop their heads off. But like I say, you're standing perfectly still in this game. You can't actually do very much. You can look around, but things are coming from behind you as well, so you can press a button on the move controllers to flip your
I see.
the way you're looking,
just
sort
turn
of thing.
around yourself.
So there's a lot of that sort of like, you've just got to be totally aware of your surroundings and what's going on. And yeah, you're just standing there pointing at things and shooting them, and I've put it on one of the harder difficulties. It's difficult on that. I'm actually regretting that now, because I'm really stuck on one of the levels. Because this game, it limits your ammo and stuff like that. You can find new guns in boxes that you can shoot. They're generally hidden somewhere in the level. You've got to see, like, there's one hidden in some pipes that you can barely see. You can just see this sort of colourful box sticking out the side and stuff like that, and you can shoot that and maybe get an Uzi. But then, like I say, you're limited by ammo. And one of the interesting things this game does is that in between, I mean, it's almost like a tower defence thing, if you see what I mean. It's like, because you're standing perfectly still and there's just waves of monsters coming at you. And then you complete one wave and move on to the next wave. And in between waves, you've got a choice. You can regain your health, or you can get some more ammo. But not both. So you've got to be really careful with your ammo. You've got to make sure, if you're shooting that gun, aim it. Like, and it doesn't feel like a problem in the first couple of levels, but then the point that I'm getting at, that ammo's becoming a problem now.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, I got the Uzi in that level, and I was just kind of like, right, cool, I've got an Uzi, I've got 600 bullets, this is enough. Get to wave 4, and I'm just like, 30 bullets left. Like, this is not fucking good.
And you've been getting beat up by
And
everyone.
yeah, if these monsters get anywhere near you, they just start pummeling you. The big, huge monsters, they're a hell of a pain in the arse. And basically, you can unload 2 Uzi clips into them before they'll drop. But you've got grenades, you've got different types of grenades that, again, they come with your ammo restock. So if you use up your grenades, you're going to have to restock your ammo if you want those grenades back, because they're the only thing that are really effective against those big monsters. And you can only take a limited number of them with you in each wave, so like 5. So it is just just wave after wave of monsters coming at you, and you're just having to deal with it. And some of it's just like terrifying, frustrating, like. And what's good about it is that they don't do it so that the waves, like when the monsters come towards you, it's not the same pattern. So if you fail a wave, they're not going to come at you in the same pattern. If you do go back and do it again, so it keeps you guessing. You've got to just constantly be looking around you. You can't just say, right, I know that guy's coming from there and that guy's coming from there. And yeah, it's slightly terrifying. Especially because of the darkness thing, especially because you have to use that flashlight to really see where the monsters are coming from. And the flashlight's got batteries, by the way.
Of course.
And again, that comes with your ammo restock. So if you're getting pummeled by monsters in one level and need to get your health back, you're already in trouble anyway.
Yeah.
Because you've not got that much ammo left.
See them coming.
Yeah. So give it a go, Euan.
I'll give that a try.
It's pretty good. It's got some good reviews and stuff like that. I've been kind of enjoying it. I might go back and turn down the difficulty and just try and play through the whole thing and see what it is. It's also got a survival mode in it, by the way, which just basically you just go forever. But that's like, you get like credits at the end of each sort of waves that you can then spend on new guns and you getting more grenades and all that kind of thing. Okay. So I don't know if that, I think that almost feels like the way to play it, if you see what I mean, just to see how far you can go with that survival mode. I have played it a little bit.
Well, if it's got that sort of thing, like you see, this sort of wave style tower defence, I think that does seem a natural way to play it.
But there's no real story.
No.
It's just kind of tacked on. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, there's been an experiment and this thing happened, and the woman that's like speaking to you through like some sort of walkie-talkie or something like that just sounds really depressed. I don't know if that's like deliberate or if it's just the voice actress they got on just sounds really depressed, but she's just like vaguely talking about, oh, they didn't know what we did here and all this sort of nonsense.
That sounds like depressed voice actress.
Yeah. So, and it's just like
to do a computer game.
Yeah, and the locations that you go into just don't make much sense whatsoever. You start off in like just some weird abandoned factory, and then the next thing you're in the middle of a park at night, and then the next thing you're in the basement of some institution or something like that. So it's just like there's no cohesive, like there's no reason for you to be in any of these places.
There's a bit of Rush of Blood has a bit of that going as well. It's fairly random, but although there is a kind of progression.
There is, but Rush of Blood can kind of palm that off a bit because they're just kind of like, this is a fairground gone wrong.
Yeah.
So anything can happen here. Like, this is just a twisted fairground ride. But in this game, it just feels like they've tried to do something and failed miserably. So, Pawel, you might not like it. But you do like shooting things.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're stationary in this game, so
It's
that's a bonus.
stationary, yeah. There's it's only just your head movements, that's it.
But I do like a story in a game.
Yeah, this one doesn't have one, I'm sorry to say.
Ah.
Unless there's some sort of big thrilling ending.
See, when you said Brookhaven, my first thought was that sounds like a Lovecraftian name.
The name rings a bell from something. I don't know. Maybe that's like Rush of, or whatever it is, Untold Dawn, Rush of Blood. Maybe a sort of tenuous spin-off from something, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I'm actually like looking forward to is that like when you go into the menu of this game, like when the game loads up and you're in the menu screen, you're kind of standing in what looks like a desert with sort of hills around you, and there's a massive monster that looks like a sort of giant, I don't know, like insect of some sort that's just like stomping across, like it's just a silhouette of it just stomping across the background, and I'm just wondering when that's going to come into the game. Because I'm only like in the third or fourth level, and I think there's 9 of them, but like each level's got increasing numbers of waves. The reason that I'm struggling so much is that the first level had like 2 waves, and then the second level had like 3 waves, and this third level's got 4 waves, I think, possibly more, because I'm just dying in the 4th wave. So I'll see where this game goes.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty decent so far. I have been enjoying it. I'm going back and playing it more and more, so there must be something there.
Not that I'm knocking the games, but it's interesting that like that's a couple of games certainly. Probably there's not a massive amount of VR output that are essentially taking the rail shooter format.
Yeah,
bringing them back. We need more time. What's it? Virtua Cop or Time Cops?
I think Virtua Cop. I think that was one of them.
What's the other? What's Time Cops? No, I just get
Time Bandits or something.
Time Bandits. That's a film.
Well, that's surely just because of the current limitations of technology, and hopefully they'll just move on soon.
Oh no, it's weird, almost refreshing to see just a good old-fashioned House of the Dead style.
I think people will get more imaginative of what they can do with VR as time goes on, because I think that might have just been a natural reaction. Was just like, what can we do with VR? Oh, remember those shooter games that were almost virtual reality?
And it's quite immediate. yeah.
So I think it was just kind of the obvious way to go, but we'll see. We'll see where VR goes from here. I'm kind of excited. Like I pointed out to Pawel that Star Trek Bridge Crew's coming out next year,
but I choose not to acknowledge it because this is actually very tempting.
Yeah.
But in March I'll be doing other things, Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, we'll see. You'll have a VR headset.
Aye.
Mass Effect goes above and beyond anything else. Mass Effect is like religion, man.
I never really got into those games.
It's fine. It's okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to start an argument.
I can forgive you. I can forgive you.
I deliberately didn't get into those games because it looks shy.
It's everybody's entitled to an opinion,
even if it's wrong.
Especially them.
What? So you can argue with them?
Yes.
They can have something to hold on to.
I've also started playing The Witcher 3, but let's not go into that. Jesus, that game is daunting to begin with.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty to be said about that.
I've had that game sat there for like more than a year, and I was just being terrified to play it because I knew it was just going to suck up a load of my life. And since I started playing it the other day, there I've put a good few hours in, and I'm enjoying it.
You've
but
not even scratched the surface.
Not even scratched the surface, and already I'm confused.
That's the thing. Do you feel like, just not to get too much into it, but do you feel like you've reached a point, and I always think most open world games do, where you're like, this isn't, like, I'm sort of into this now, and I'm not, it's not so insanely big that I can't comprehend it, whereas every time I've played The Witcher, it's just been like,
yeah,
I'm
having that sort of RPG thing where as soon as I leveled up and stuff, and then it asked me to like spend some skill points, I'm like, well, I don't know. Like,
what's going to come?
You're not telling me anything here. What is this good? What is that? How do I use this thing?
Oh.
Like, So, yeah, I'm having that problem.
There's
but
only one definite tactic I'm aware of.
I've just done the classic thing. Oh yeah, put more points into damage. That'll work.
Nah.
I feel
always
for you
good.
people.
Anyway.
It's the signs you should invest your skill points in.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought, and I did with my third level. So, anyway, let's not get into The Witcher 3. So we'll leave that for another day. Yes, that's us wrapped that up. Oh, sorry, I should have said the Brookhaven experiment was by Phosphor Games. And yeah, that's us, episode 33. Done. So we'll do some internets for you. If you want to email us with anything at all, if you've got questions that you want us to answer on the show, or you've got suggestions or comments or abuse for Pawel, then send those to firstplayertoken@gmail.com, and that's FIRST player token. You'll find us on Facebook. We are on Twitter, but that's @1ST player token.
Well, I wasn't going to bother saying once player,
But it's your thing, man. You have to say once player token. It's just your thing now.
People, we did talk about catchphrases last week, and I think
There goes the bucket. You can find us on SoundCloud. That's where we upload all our episodes to, but you can also subscribe to us on iTunes. You can find us there. We have a YouTube channel. My Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris if you want to see me getting eaten by more dinosaurs. We have a website which we still need to work on, but it has something on it. It's www.firstplayertoken.com. We have a Discord, which is the VoIP chat thing. So it's just basically like a bunch of chat rooms, but you can use it for gaming and stuff like that.
well, if I ever
It's a
remember,
popular thing amongst the kids these
okay,
days.
well,
Okay,
if I ever remember it exists, I might wander into that
Yeah,
chat
you
room
should.
one day. Start
So-
talking to some kids.
if you want the link for our Discord, best thing to do is just ask us for it. So just message us, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want.
DM me, babes.
Yeah. Right back. And we are part of the Podnose Network. Ewan, this is your...
This is my bailiwick.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, Podnose, the UK's leading entertainment podcast network, and they've a multitude of wonderful podcasts on there, and recently have set up a Patreon. Don't know how that's gone so far. I haven't really heard a lot from George. His updates have gone
He seems like a
a
busy
lot
man.
more sporadic. Well, he's doing like interviews with various sort of massive podcast hosts in America and things like that. The Podpit series has been building up a few episodes over the last year, so he does seem to be a busy man. One thing I would say, the last I checked on the Podnose site anyway, it does seem, because there was definitely some mention of changes to the website, and you can now like and comment on individual episodes on the website. So if you fancy listening through the website, give us a comment on there. Another place you can annoy us on social media.
Right, so that's www.podnose.com if you want to go and check out a whole array of podcasts. And that's us. So, plans for the future. We are probably, after the new year, going to change the day we put the podcast out. And that's for personal reasons mainly, because there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives that seem to happen at the beginning of the week now. Yeah. So, it's probably easier for us to record towards the end of the week and then get the episodes out at the weekend. So we'll probably be looking at episodes coming out on Saturdays after the new year. But other than that, it's business as normal. We'll have a party games episode a couple of weeks' time, just in time for Christmas
Try and
parties.
squeeze that one out before Christmas.
Yep, so look forward to that. And yep, we'll see you episode 34. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Bye!